Okay, and welcome to another episode. You've got Gary, Jeremy, James, and Karen with us tonight. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad.
That's good. Just checking everybody's working away. Everyone's good. So, tonight we're going to talk about something which is a very controversial thing in the paranormal world, and that is psychics. Now, I know there's a lot of teams out there which are very much against psychics and they rely 100% on tech. But we're one of the teams that, as you guys all know, we do have a psychic on board, and that is our lovely Karen, who is with us here tonight. And she is absolutely a massive part of the team, and I don't know why anybody wouldn't have a psychic on any team because they're so valuable. So, what do you reckon?
Yeah, anyone would be lucky to have Karen on their team. And I can say people don't have psychics because when you get the one that's really good, there is no other to choose from.
That's it. That's it. So, Karen, do you want to tell us about life? When did you first realise you were a psychic?
Well, that's a tricky one and is often asked, but I would have to say I probably always knew, but just wasn't aware that was, how other people didn't see or do. It really kicked in after I had my children, so in my 30s. So I became very aware, and which is probably like intuition of, mothers or parenting. But I was getting a lot of messages when I was taking them to school and things like that weren't related to my children. And then I had a friend that was murdered. And
that's a pretty high profile case from memory as well.
Yeah. So I was fully aware of that one before I was actually informed, not so much the details of it, because I'm still vague on that, having been close to the person. But yeah, after that, and then I met someone who would be probably considered to be a white witch. And yeah, she actually recognised things that I was able to do and just sort of gave me training to bring things out. And I was about 35, 36. That's when I started to realise, a lot of what I was seeing and hearing and able to do.
What made you... Oh, sorry. Go on, James.
So what do you think the correlation is between having children and your psychic ability growing?
Just like, as I say, it's intuition, mother's intuition. And you'd be more aware, you switch on. So I was just picking up on things. And once they started at school, especially being around other children and other parents, I was getting information that didn't belong to me when I was in groups. And I still do that today. That's more the empath, I think, the clairvoyant thing. But that's one of the things. Since I started with the group, with WAPR, I always just sort of did classify myself as a psychic. But I think we went out on an investigation once and there was another lady with us. And so I think you pointed out medium, psychic and clairvoyant. I'm actually all three. So in the abilities. Psychic.
Yeah, it is important to delineate that they are all separate entities. It's not all the same thing. A lot of people think it's all one.
Yeah, they do draw on each other. I'd have to say probably more clairvoyant and medium. Psychic comes into play when I do the tarot reading, which is not what the WAPR thing is. Yeah, it's a bit different. So, sorry.
Somebody sneaking in.
Through the garage.
I was about to say,
I can't say psychic ability. I saw his car coming. But yeah, so I'd have to say more clairvoyant. And out of that, clairvoyants there's I think 6 or 7 different levels of that, and which is all seeing, knowing, smelling, tasting. I can read items of jewelry, pictures and imagery and things like that. So I think there's 6 or 7 and I have all 7. Not all are strong, but I can and do rely on all of those. And when I do my tarot readings and things like that, they all come into play, and especially the medium part of that, which is engaging with the ones that have crossed over. So it all comes into play. So that part I use very much when we're out on an investigation.
Yeah.
So I can hear them and see them.
Now, one of the things that annoys me when I hear people turn around and say, no, you don't want a psychic on the team, is they're out to capture evidence of the paranormal. And why wouldn't you use every tool at your disposal? I know a lot of people say, no, you can't have a psychic because you can't prove what a psychic can read, you know what I mean? But where I value you is that what we do is we ask you to put yourself out there, and what happens is spirits can recognize that you can see them, you can hear them, and that will encourage them to come forward and actually start, you know, communicating, which is what we're all after. And while I've had this conversation with you before, I wouldn't present solely what a psychic says as proof of the paranormal, but you are a very important part of our team, and I do believe that a true psychic, and you have to say that because there are a lot of fakes out there, a true psychic is the other side of the coin. You know, a coin has two sides. They're both the same thing. So you've got the investigative side and you've got the other side as well, which is you put the two together, and that's what we want when we're looking to capture evidence and things like that. So you're another, I mean, it sounds horrible calling you a tool, but
me.
Yeah. Worse, but anyway.
But you know what I'm saying is that if you've got somebody out there who can put the energy out and get the spirits to come forward, it's as good as having one of those, one of those
Swiss Army knives.
Swiss Army knives. Yeah, you the team's MacGyver. You can do everything with a Swiss Army knife and a shoelace.
No, I'm saying Karen's our Swiss Army knife.
That's what I just said. Yeah.
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 But in saying that, Gary, though, with saying how teams, don't have a psychic, don't want psychics because can't prove it. That goes with any other piece of equipment that we use. You have other equipment to back that up to get accurate readings. Like you look at a EMF or K2.
Mm-hmm.
That picks up on multiple things. You and I know that. Everyone knows it. Well,
yeah.
People in our team know that.
Mm-hmm.
So then you use other things in place to prove that that's correct. So why wouldn't you, like you said, have it in your back pocket knowing, hey, we've got these readings on our equipment and Karen's saying this. And, it doesn't always line up, but most of the time it does.
Well, I go back probably, I'm going back maybe 10, 12 years now with this one. And I was involved with a project where we were going to be doing a TV show over in America. And the lady involved, she was a psychic over there. And she said that the teams over there don't like using psychics. And she actually interviewed me on her old podcast back on Blog Talk Radio a million years ago. And we struck a friendship up from there. And that's where this whole project stemmed from. So there was a couple of us from WAPR that we were going to go over to America, team up with a couple of guys over there, and we were going to investigate over there. And one of the big reasons is because over in America, apparently, I think it's changing now, but back then psychics were pretty much poo-pooed. They didn't want them because they're soothsayers and things like that. But a psychic is nothing more than an extremely highly tuned person who can pick up on those things that most of us can't. It's the old thing. If you want to go and race in a car race, you don't turn up in a little Hyundai Getz. You turn up in a fully worked, super fast, fully tuned car. And that's what Karen is. She's our fully tuned supercar.
How many analogies can we... How many analogies can we use today? Why would you eat cereal with a fork when you can use a spoon?
It's true. I don't understand why teams don't use a psychic. There's a lot of work involved in finding a good one that's real and genuine.
I would say that's probably the biggest thing, is you have that many people that say they can do this, 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 or this. And it's just, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I see it from the side too. Like as I said, doing the paranormal investigations isn't sort of what we're all about either, because I don't. Until I went on a few hunts with you at the start, I can go off in my own little world. Because I hear so many different things or see so many different things, and a lot of it is so quick to me, or just normal for me. It is very hard to then communicate to the group, and whereas I am able to point out to you where there's energy where I might see, I can then still just switch off because I'm not looking, whereas the team is looking for evidence. I don't. In the realm of the spiritual world, I'm not. And so I sometimes, will seem vague to you, and that's just not my personality all the time. But when we're out, because I'm already away, and I can tell they've left, I can tell they've gone. And sometimes it's hard because I think you need to be going through that process as well to see and to validate what I've already, sort of said or done or whatever. But yeah, it's hard because when I do know that they're not going to speak, or I hear a different level that you're going to pick up on, or it's passing, for me, it's different. It's not what I've done or how I work. So it's been a learning curve to go out as well and see. And I find it fascinating. I love it to do it because it gets another outlet of what I can do as well.
So since joining WAPR, would you say that, some of those skills have heightened in a sense of what you had before? Or is it you just using things that you haven't used for a while?
It's the things that are just there. And that's one thing with the investigation. As I say, normally what I've done is houses and readings, and if my interest is cold cases, as you know, that I like looking at those. But I've lost my train of thought. So
okay, so
but I do different things. So it brings out different things in me when we go out on an investigation as to what I can do. And I find that interesting as well. It's outside my comfort zone realm. So, I've probably seen more spirits since we've been on investigation than I would have done in the realm of things. But having said that, I have seen them, previously. So, but seen a lot more. So, and exposed to a lot more shadows and voices and things like that. They're normally in my realm of what I've done is been to the person that I'm with, or having a reading, or a house energy that I'm going to, and things like that. So it's a limited area, whereas the investigations are broader. It's opening up to a lot more to come in.
James? I think he's lost audio.
Might be muted.
Yeah.
How's that better?
There we go.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. How do you feel when that's really odd because it wasn't muted before and all of a sudden it's now muted?
Spookies are working.
But anyway, I digress. How do you feel when people start knocking your ability? How do you react to that?
I don't share the ability with people I think that are going to knock it. And if they choose to have that opinion, I'm not going to change it anyway. I've already read their energy and wouldn't share or divulge anymore. I think people are becoming more open to that sort of realm. I'm quite happy now just to say that's what I do, and do the readings and things like that. But yeah, look, people find when I say I go on that with the team, and doing the investigations and tell them, snippets and stories, they all find it fascinating. no one to go with me, but they all find it fascinating. So probably because I tell them that we make the newbies go to the back. But anyway.
Oh,
so,
you're telling them it all wrong, then. You've got to tell them they have to spend 15 minutes all on their own out in the dark.
Look,
you tell them to run just as you're at the other end of the tunnel. We're already out.
If newbies are willing to come, I say they have to go to the morgue in Albany and stay the night in the morgue.
I'm not that cruel. But
actually, James hasn't been down there with us yet, so James will get his moment.
Ooh. Sure, I'll get there. So, on the back of that one, right? Have you had anybody that has been a skeptic and just had their jaw dropped by the information you've been able to provide?
When I've done readings, no, readings are different. There was an incident when I was living in the country. A friend of mine, they're now friends of mine, they lost their dog, and I saw the notice that the dog was missing, and I didn't associate the dog with the particular person, and I just looked at it was in the shops, and I just went, there's something really wrong with this. As sad as it was that the dog had gone missing, I just went, there's something extra wrong in this. And Jeff and I spent 3 days searching for that dog. We gave information to the owners, and one of the things, when I do receive information, it is really quick, it is really cryptic, and that doesn't help when I'm doing the cold case ones, because you think they just give you their name. But anyway, there was information that I did give about where the location of this dog. Sadly, the dog had passed, but they found it where, after, not through necessarily what I'd said, but when it was all put together, it was part of it. And then that led into actually having to go and cleanse their home. And that was a really nasty one. And that's when things went flying and ducking and weaving. That person sort of, when that got around in town, I mean, that was a small country town. So you're all going to have that. Most of the time I like it because people are very wary then of my capabilities for some unknown reason. People do associate that with witchcraft and being able to put spells and stuff like that. So they stay away. If they're that bad, they just stay away.
It's funny how you just mentioned that, because quite often a lot of people mix up a psychic with a witch. And again, they are two completely separate entities. A witch is basically a hippie of many, many, many years ago. I mean, even now, they're the same thing, but they're not psychic. You may have a witch who has psychic abilities, but a witch is not generally something you are. It is something, it's like a belief system, like being religious and stuff. You know what I mean? It is a pagan religion, and it's something that can be learned, but like all things, you can take it the right way or you can take it the wrong way. So you got the light, the dark in everything. It's a matter of balance. And psychics are completely, or mediums, they're completely separate to that. So I don't know why people in this day and age, where everybody is so informed by the internet, that they can't make that difference. You know what I mean? And one of the questions I wanted to ask... Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on.
That's because half the information they're getting informed with is ill-informed information.
Well, that's
people are
true.
starting to believe everything that they read, and they're not doing any investigation for themselves.
Well, that's one of the things. If you look on our WAPR page and you look at everything that gets posted day in, day out, they're obviously fake. A lot of those videos, a lot of those photos, even a blind person could see that they're fake. And there are people out there that still believe it, which is very sad, actually. So,
and those same people that believe those videos and think poorly of people that actually do have talents, such as mediums and psychics, they're the same people that go pay the $50 and sit in a room with a curtain around it at festivals or markets to get their cards read.
And that's
why would you doubt someone, but yet you're going to go pay $50 and sit in an open area and get a card reading? Like, come on.
9 times out of 10, those are the real fakes.
Well, yeah. Well, how are you supposed to hone in on someone's energy when you got 50 million people walking past you?
Yeah.
I suppose Karen could answer that.
No.
Yeah.
If you're in a crowd with a lot of people, can you pick up specific energies, or is it a whole load of white noise which gives you a headache?
Yeah, both. There's many a times when I can't stay at a supermarket or be in areas because I've walked through the energy, and these COVID freaking years have been shockers, and I've known a lot of my friends that are into the healing and different things have stepped away because everybody's just been so, angry. There's that angry energy. And yeah, I can walk in and pick different people's energies. I steer clear of it. Some people are just, I'm aware. But yeah, there's noise. The other day I struggled. I don't know what was going on, but I struggled. I didn't want to set foot outside. So, but that's a combination of things. But as far as people that, I can understand people not trusting them. It is very easy in the realm of with reading tarot. I mean, I can read those cards. I've always known when you're having a read, every card has a meaning, and I know those meanings to about 70%. I can't give you star signs and things like that. What I read and how I read it is what the person's telling me, and it's the most important card will be shown to me, and I will read that energy. But I can see how people can fall for cheating on that. I've got to be honest, it would be very easy to do. I don't. If I honestly aren't picking up, if you don't want to be read, I won't read you. I will just get, I don't want to be read. And that's as much, and I won't do. Or you can see they're getting sad. So it's easy to read because that's body language. It's like the FBI as well, how they do all those things. That's the same in somebody that wants to, wrought those, and they'll just tell you what the cards mean, not what they mean to you. So I understand it. And in the same in going on our investigations, it frustrates me because I can see what you need to be getting pictures of. I can see what's coming. I can see things and I can hear things, but it doesn't come out on the equipment that we go to use. And so that bit frustrates me, and it must do when I'm sitting there going, it's right beside you. So I know, but whether that's just that I am able to see that and they don't want to come any further. So, I mean, we work around and I try and give you information or feed, to questions to ask and things like that. So it can be verified that we've got people there. But they work in such mysterious ways. And Jeremy knows that too. I mean, when Jeremy and I have phone conversations, our phones just, gone, We have messages from
it can be phone conversations. It can be dropping Karen off at home for a 30-minute car ride. And you have about 6 different people in your car. And she's like, oh, this person's in the car.
but that's just because you've got the energy abilities as well. So, but I like it. I do like doing it. I like to think that what I do in my work that I help people. I struggle to do the read for everybody. Which is to take money for that. I'm often ticked off for it's what you do, but there's people that I know that I've genuinely helped, and I'm actually catching up with one of those ladies very shortly. And yeah, I think that's my purpose for being able to do what I do. And the fun part is I get to come out with you guys and do the investigation, which is, as I say, I've seen more, heard more than my, 30 years of awareness of being a psychic, but or medium or clairvoyant and it's a good party trick too. I often tell people if things are getting boring, there's somebody standing beside them. A lot of people actually believe me, so it's good.
When we do an investigation and you're going to be going out, how do you prepare yourself for a specific location? Because I would assume you do it differently depending on where we're going.
Well, I have the same prayer that I do collectively. when we do go to certain locations, I usually do the prep before we go, and I include everybody in our group before we leave, and I charge all my crystals, which you guys can't see, which are all here, but and little bits that I take, which is not a Swiss Army knife, but I take those, and then when we're there and we're all having our chats beforehand, I am continuously saying a prayer, and I am including everybody as I'm seeing you, so your name is in my head as we may enter certain ones. I ask, God and everybody that in my collective, my guides and my mum now, to watch us, and stay very switched on when we're doing any of those investigations, and when we're leaving, I always make sure that where we've been, those they stay there. And there's a couple of places, as you know, we've had to turn around and say, go back, stop and stay. But yeah, it is. I do have a prayer. You guys, well, I think you've heard it once, but generally I say it in my head, and it's strong. And I put a white light in a bubble. And if I think, like we had, with one of our investigations, that, where we had that incident, but I didn't foresee that one, although the information was given to me. I totally misread it because of the particular person, and I kicked myself for that one. But, because that's where you got to be careful that your actual knowledge doesn't interfere, because you put logic over it. And my logic told me that person was not going to go there. But I was definitely getting told they were. So that's where I have to be very careful, especially when we're out, because I know it to be true as to what I'm being, fed. So.
One of the other things as well about being a psychic, especially on a team where we're going out and we're investigating the paranormal, obviously, well, it's what we do. But for you guys out there who don't have a psychic on your team, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown. When we go out on an investigation, before we will go in, I'll get the team together, car park or wherever we may be as a group, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about what we're expecting, and then we will go in. Now, most people have those feelings, I think everybody's got psychic ability to a certain extent, but, where everybody else is down here, psychics, and, they're right up there somewhere. So you may get an idea of where you want to set up and do things. Karen, she'll do her readings and put the energy out there, and she will be able to, probably 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, say, this is where you need to set up your gear. Now, if you're a team and time is a valuable resource for any investigation, if you've got an idea where you need to set the gear up to get the best evidence, listen to your psychic, because they're far more attuned to what we're trying to capture. So, as I said before, it's like having another tool in your belt. If you know where to set up and capture the best activity, why wouldn't you do that instead of just taking a stab in the dark all the time? Yeah, you might catch it 1 times out of 10, but when you've got somebody there who can pick up on what you're trying to capture, your hit rate goes up to 7, 8, 9 times out of 10. At the end of the day, if they don't want to communicate with us, they're not going to do it. But we can't do much about that, whether you're an absolute psychic or not. If they're not going to play ball, they're not going to play ball. So Karen helps us out with that all the time. And and another thing that she does is anybody who may have a little bit of psychic ability, Karen will help them and give them little hints on how to increase their abilities.
And then the voices don't go away.
Well, that's another thing she's got to learn.
She's
She's got to learn to shut
Karen,
them up.
help me, I can't shut it off.
That's how I get friends.
So, Karen, there's probably a burning question out there for everyone, listeners, and not just myself. But when you see the energies, like if you watch a movie, for example, like The Conjuring or something, right? That when the psychic Lorraine Warren sees the energy, she sees it as a full-bodied, solid apparition, right? How do you see
I
it?
haven't watched it, but yeah. Okay, I haven't watched that movie, but
There's like 4. You're missing out on a great show. Just to say.
you know, it's scary, scary. I see them. Okay, this one's been asked. I see pixelated. It's like for me, if you picture in a TV, what do you call it, cop shop murder thing, and you got an evidence thing or like blood splatter or whatever, and they go, oh, something's been moved, and they've got the whatever. So if I look at a wall and there is somebody or a spirit standing there or there, it's a pixelated image. So I can't see through to a clear wall. So that wall becomes distorted like a pixelated. Then as I recognise that, then they'll start talking to me and they will tell me what they look like. I have seen full apparitions. I have probably 3 or 4 maybe, and shadow figures, all different. But what I generally see when we're out, when they want to show, that's what I see. It is not a direct image that I can see through, so I can't see. Something blocks my view, and what it is like a pixelated, distortion.
Yep.
And so I can't see, and then I don't see them change into that person. They will then just describe themselves to me and give the information to me, and then I will see that standing there. Yep.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's hard for me when we are out. We have a couple of cemeteries we've seen solid imageries, well, close to. I've seen ones that in my, I won't say whose house it was, but anyway, it's solid enough that the people moved to let it go through. Cool. So, and I've seen one bit hard because I'm not wearing my glasses. It's a little bit tricky, but yeah, I've seen another one in the same house. Currently, where they are, I think the lady's been present once or twice, but she doesn't hang around for very long. They're very quick. I've not seen lingering except for that one that we moved for. They're not long in their presence from me anyway. Not that I've seen, but when we're on hunts, yes, they are. I'll stay as long as the information is given to me and then gone.
I had the perfect question for you then, and I've just totally gone blank as to what it might have been. But one of the other things I wanted to ask, have you ever looked into remote viewing?
Yes, that's what I like to do. If you're referring to looking at images, photos.
Yeah. That's
and channeling.
Yes. I've
I
been interested. I've been watching a lot of shows, and I mean, it's something I've been listening to for 20, 30 years when they're talking about it. And you see a lot of these shows where, or you hear a lot of the radio shows, the old blog talk radio shows from way back when the internet first came into being, not long after the wheel. They would talk about remote viewing, and they would say, we've got an object in our hand, and they would try it, or on the desk, and then they would try to see who could pick up what it was. And it was more a guessing game, but the American government actually put a lot of money into remote viewing projects and things like that. And I've just wondered if it's something that you've ever looked at or tried doing.
Yeah, now you've said that one, no, I can't. My success rate on telling you what's behind a screen would be zip. My remote channeling, or how I thought where you were going on that one, is looking at an imagery or an object, but I have to be able to see it. I have tried doing that where someone's turned the photograph around the other way. Good, but not that good. I have to. That's one of the things for that. No, there is a name for it, and don't ask me.
Psychometry?
Psychometry, going back to Ghostbusters. Yeah. They did that test with the squiggly lines and things.
I can do that. I can read jewelry and objects that people have had Look, not a lot on it. I get enough information. And as Jeremy knows, or you probably all do, what I was doing when I did stop work, which wasn't through choice of retirement at the time, but stopped working, was I have an interest in the cold cases or the thing. So that I look at the image. I don't read the case about it. I just select the imagery. And that's why I got my laptop, is I bring up the image and I just ask them, give their name and ask them to talk away. Sometimes I scribe, I'm able to scribe what they say and draw pictures that they're showing me. I have, with a couple of cases, gone to the police on that, but it's very hard, and that's what was with, like you said, Gary, with all information is good information, and that's what I tried to explain to the police. But it is very hard because as they're talking or as we're going, I can only get words and the images, and I have to be so quick. And so when I did speak to the police on a couple of matters, you can tell some are good. Like my brother-in-law was on cold case, and the Sarah Spears case, I didn't remote channel her, and for 3 years I had Sarah Spears come to me at all random times, and when I would slowly put together that there was things that she was telling me that I was near or I had seen or I had done. And there was one particular friend that had gone to the same school as her and lived in Claremont in the same areas, and had been I suppose attacked sounds a bit strong, but we'll say it because it wasn't pleasant. We're leaving that same club, the club, whatever it was, Bayview there.
Club Bayview, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just after I'd had lunch with this girl. Now, that information wasn't known to me at the time, but Sarah Spears just appeared and started giving me just so much information. Then when I caught up with the girl, my friend again, we were talking about it, and it linked in that she then told her story. So then I'd pass cars and stuff like that. So eventually I typed it all up and I gave it to my brother-in-law at the time for cold cases. It was taken, and to other people I know worked in cold cases. I've handed it over and she's been very quiet. One of the bits that I did have in that information was it revolves about a jacket. She kept saying it's in a jacket. You will find that information in a jacket. So I still don't believe he's the only one involved, but I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's the channeling I do.
Yeah, it actually, remote viewing would tie very closely into that. Now, with the American government, what they would do is they'd have a team of remote viewers, and they'd be given an envelope. It might have a photo in it. It might just have a series of numbers, and they put their energy out there, and they would just, whatever came to mind, no matter how random, they would write it down, or if there was a picture that came in their head, they would draw the picture. And quite often, these would lead to, like, finding a missile silo in North Korea or something. That's not specific, but that's how it works. And something like that would work very well with the police, especially with cold cases and things like that, because all it would have to be, is one connecting element to the case, and then you just go for it. Whatever comes to mind, you write it down, you draw it or anything, and you give it to the police, and they'll sift through it. And there may be one word, one phrase, one image, which could be the missing link to tie their entire case together. And that's what remote viewing is all about. It's very interesting, but everybody's take on what it actually is differs. So it does tie into the psychic side of things, but psychic is such a broad term for so many different factors. And I just wasn't sure if you tried that.
Sorry. So with the cold cases and that, and you were saying you're handing information to police, what were their reactions to you going, hey, I can do this, this is what I found out, I can try and help you? Was it a warming welcome, or was it more of a get out of here, you're crazy?
No, well, I sent some information through, which is very hard because I introduced myself, wrote a letter, introduced myself, said, this is some cases that I've looked at and information that I've received. This is what I do. I explained it. And it's really hard because when I do get the information coming through to me, it's like dot pointed. So, it goes all over the place and bits and pieces. So it is hard, but it's amazing as well. So I sent it through and I've had the police, what do you call them, like Crime Stoppers or whatever they were, actually contact me, and they were good. Yeah, I was on the phone for quite a while on a couple of them, just talking about the different information and what I do. But this wasn't a West Australian one, and they sort of said, oh, well, if you can let us know if you get to work with the West Australian police, and then, so it's very hard. But I mean, I've got files sitting behind me. I think I've looked at every cold case now in Australia. And I just find it fascinating, even one that just came up the other day, just one bit of information I didn't know. It was a child one. I try not to look at them too much, but, the comment in a recent update was she loved to tell stories. She was a storyteller, and that's one of the things I've written in mine, that, the storytelling. She's continuing to tell stories. So just little things. It breaks my heart, and I've promised all of them when I've spoken to them that I will. One day it will get put in front of someone, and if they want to look at it, they can look at it.
One of the cold cases I would love to know more about is the Beaumont children.
That one I got screams and screeds of pages on. But the hardest one is logic, because that's been out so much, since I was little. That's what I've grown up with. So much information already out there. I did do it, and I did send that one through to them, but there's a lot of oddities in a couple of those cases with what the police want to look at, to be honest. But that's known. One of
the fears I would have about ringing the police or contacting the police and saying, I'm a psychic, I've got this information, I've got that information about your case, here you go. And then they're going to be thinking, well, you know a lot about this case. We might have to bring you in and question you.
A lot of them, thank goodness, as old as I might be, was possibly, impossible for me to do. But, I do. That's the part that I like. It's going in that. And even when we do an investigation and things like that, it's coming back and looking up what we've found and some of the information. That to me is amazing. I try not to do too much looking at before we go anywhere, although sometimes when I do know we're going, I get names, even with the one where we're heading shortly. So I'm keeping all that to myself. You guys can have a look-see and see if you get the same stuff. But, I love it. But, I mean, I'm lucky. I've got a good group too, so that appreciate that, and we all work together. So, I mean, we got quite a few in our group, haven't we, that were able to have that ability. Lynn can, Jeremy can, Kerry. So when we're out, it's such a good meld. We all just help each other's gifts, if you like.
I think it's I think it's very important that everybody share and build each other up, especially with abilities like that, because when you get a group of people that all hone in on the exact same thing, that just can't be by chance, and there's been many a time when we've been coming home in the car and Lynn's been going, everything that you said, she got the same time or the same location, and Jeremy's the same, and it's just a matter of the more people that you have got that have these abilities, especially in a team. Like I said, we would never use these abilities to present to somebody as proof of the paranormal, but they definitely help in directing us where to set up our gear or the sort of questions that we need to ask in an EVP session, and quite often how to conduct an investigation to get the best results in a short period of time, or a longer period of time if we do one of those 2 or 3 day jobs down south and whatever, So, Jeremy, you were about to say something?
That is one person I totally forgot about when we're talking about this. This is your lovely wife, Lynn. She would have been great to have here as well.
She was originally going to come on tonight. She was going to be sat right beside me, but she's had a massive day of family gatherings, and she's all family gathered
Tuck it
out
out.
at the moment. So she's a bit tired. She's just gotten to pick Jake up, and I think she's going to have an early one tonight because they're back out again tomorrow. So luckily for me, it's my last day of work for the day, for the week.
So, Karen, with all the modern technology that we have out here now, everyone has these awful things, mobile phones, right? Have you ever done a reading or a house viewing by remote? A different form of remote viewing, but someone using their mobile phone?
Yep.
And did you get the same results as if you were physically there?
No. So it really relies on energy input, which then goes against, and this is where it all sort of gets unstuck, against looking at a photo image. So, but because if somebody sends you a picture or and it's of them, so like I'm looking at you guys now. I mean, I know you, so I mean I could tell you what you already know about yourselves, but you know, you're there. It's different. You're living. So I can do that. I can energy read the living, yes. But it's more that when I'm doing that from pictures and remote, the person is deceased, so therefore it is information from the past. A house I can look at, yes, because it has a different form. It's not like yourselves, it's a different sort of energy, and I still would be able to see it. But anything, I've only ever done one remote clearing, and that's because the mother, it was a sad incident where the child was seeing someone in the corner of the room, and it was a suicide. As soon as she said it, I could see it, but that was just very rare, but they were friends of ours. So with the mother, I was able to walk through and help the person move on by doing that, actually through the phone and her repeating it. But she had to have the strength as well to get it done.
So you can do it, but it's easier if you're physically there.
Yeah.
Next one is, how do you feel about what they call the witching hour?
Well, I have to say,
Have you heard that phrase before?
Yeah, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah, because I have at my house, I have a child that comes into my room between 3 and 3:15 nearly every night.
The silence.
Silence is golden, but yeah, it's weird because like sometimes she'll go back to bed, like I'll take her back to bed, and other times she'll come back to our bed.
You'd have to see it. It could be lots and lots of things that could be triggering that. I do believe in witching hour, and if it's going to affect anyone, it'd affect children through with sleep, doesn't it, Jeremy?
Yes, it does. Trust me. It does.
Yeah. So and 3 o'clock, it could be shifting, waning, waxing moons. All those I'm not good on. Simple thing in her room. So you got to look at, like we always do, rhyme and reason something in the real world as opposed to going to that side first.
Yeah.
But you could have someone visiting, like Christy posted that one on children seeing, and I mean, children will definitely see them before we'll see them because they don't judge. Yeah, they don't judge. They don't have no preconceived ideas of life and death, and that's why you'll often find children will remain in spirit because they haven't had the concept of death. So they're not, the light to them is nothing unless their parent had gone over, and so a very young child may linger longer. That worked, isn't it? A tongue twister. Because they don't know to go through.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll see a lot more children. That's what I think, or what I see, my understanding. But yes, you're probably something. Could be a street light goes on. Could be neighbours something doing at 3. But kids, 3 o'clock in the morning, yeah, witching out. Same with my cat. So something's got to be triggering them. My cats are always up at 3.
It's funny.
Zooming.
I don't actually know why they call it the witching hour, because the original concept of that is more of a demonic kind of thing, as in Christ was supposed to have been crucified about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, as with all things, you invert it. It means the baddies come to bear at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like, you have a crucifix and it's everything holy, but you flip it upside down, and that's a sign that, the big bads are coming out and things like that. And it's a similar concept, and I don't know where the poor witches got heaped with that name.
So I've actually found a little something then about that. So from as far back as 1775, the origins go back further to 1535, where the Catholic Church prohibited activities during 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the time frame due because of emerging fears of witchcraft in Europe.
I never have much to say about the church, about anything.
No, neither do I.
I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not a very religious person. Now, some people say they're the same thing, but they are completely different. Yeah.
I believe there's something bigger than out there that's bigger than all of us, and we've got to have faith. But more spiritual, having been raised.
Spirituality is something you use. Religion is something you follow.
Yep. So it'd be different.
Yes and no. I think spirituality is a way of life, whereas religion is an organised. Well, I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm thinking.
Yes.
So religion is a man-made concept, whereas spirituality is a natural way of being.
A choice.
Well, that's a nice way of putting it. I just thought it was religions for control.
Anyway, we don't want to get ourselves in too much trouble, but yeah.
Fancy name for government.
Yeah.
You can talk about all the governments all you want, and you can talk about anything you want, but as soon as you start talking about the church or the religion, they have more power than any government on the planet.
Yeah.
And more money as well.
One last question for you, Karen. Well, from me at the moment. There might be more. You never know.
Well, we've only got about 7 minutes left, so.
All right, so this one quick. So, people within WAPR who are sensitive, do you believe that they become more sensitive as time goes by with the more investigations they do?
So you partly cut out there, but I think I got you. So yeah, I do. I think everybody. I think people are more now going to say something or speak up or be aware, and it's basically tuning in, like we've done those experiments, Gary, with the headphones and the white light, the noise, and just trusting your instincts. I mean, everybody's got it, and that's why I say when it more so came, more aware for me was after I'd had the children. So we've all got it. We just don't trust it. And that's when I'm working or doing whatever, I have to block out. And that's why, yes, a lot of people around me is hard. So when we're in a group doing that, because I pick up on them as well. That's the empath bit. That's like Lynn. So there's Claire empath as well. So that's I can get it from all levels, from the living and the deceased, the past. So, but yeah, when we've gone out, the group is now very much in sync when we're going and listening and becoming aware. I mean, I might make myself redundant, but
no,
never.
No. I think the easiest way
until you can save yourself, so you might have a job.
No, but I think the easiest way to put it is, sorry to interrupt, but it's like going to a gym. Just think of your psychic abilities as another muscle. If you don't exercise it, you won't build it. And I think that's an important thing. The more we go out with Karen, we're exercising our abilities. So some people are naturally growing at better rates than others, but if you don't exercise it, it's never going to grow. It's there. We've all got muscles, but the six packs don't show out. Your six pack doesn't show, especially mine. I have a wicked six pack, which is very well gift wrapped. Yeah.
On that one, Gary, as a first hand myself, I've always heard these things and just ignored it, sort of things. I had no hell of idea what the hell it was, and not until speaking with Karen, being with the group, not realizing what it was, and having Karen there to help me progress. I've made leaps and bounds in the last 3 years comparing to what I could do and what I can do now. Like I said, to the point where we can now have a phone call for an hour and be like, oh, yeah, you've got this person next to you and he's doing this. Karen will be like, oh, well, how the hell do you know that? But I think without Karen, I'd be in that spot that I started at. And it does show to that, James, in saying that the more that you have someone around you to push you and help you grow further using those things, it makes a world of difference.
Karen's our
to learn
psychic
and progress.
PT.
Sorry, Gary.
You're our psychic PT.
But
I'm going to start charging.
The bit for me that it's sort of like, it's great to watch everybody start trusting that intuition, but it's really frustrating is that when you can't see them. And I don't know how to make you be able to do that. I got Mark to see one because he asked what did I see? Because a lot of people think you're actually going to see always a solid figure, and it's not that. You know, they can just be as quick as, and sadly, unless they do stand still long enough, like we were at that Rockingham cemetery, and I said that night they weren't walking. Not one of them was walking. The spirits were all just floating, like you know, no one touched down. And Mark, when we were in the car park, finally got to see one, and it was like it was, you know, floating. And he said, "I get what you mean. You know, you can't be looking for that, and I can't help you see that unless they want to be seen." But
that's kind of the thing, though, as well. If you're someone that doesn't really have that experience or haven't noticed it, if you want to force yourself that much, your brain will trick you into seeing things. And it's just
Yeah.
Well, we know that with pareidolia and things. But I find that also even interesting because I've shown people different photos from locations, and so it is your mind. And where your mindset. I showed 3 of my friends' particular photos, and I knew what I identified in it, and they all got. One of the ones that I'd seen in it, but all were their own interests. So what they saw from that image was what was prevalent to them at the time. So one was going to become a grandmother, one was a sporting person, one was an animal person. They all saw what was their mindset in that image. And I hadn't seen any of them. I'd seen different things altogether.
It's kind of like that wedding photo that I've got, where you can full see the figure in the background. And it's not until I started showing other people, and then someone else turned to me and goes, "Hey, you do realise there's 3 other faces to the left of what you're looking at, and you haven't seen it."
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I'll have to send it to you, James. It's actually a really good photo.
It is. One of the first nights I went, actually, I think it was the night that we met Karen. We went to the tunnel, and Lynn took a photo from just outside the tunnel and got this image. Now, she saw this lady, which was clear as day to, well, anybody that looks at the photo can see it. But when you look at it, there's a controlling man sort of over her shoulder as if he's got his hands on her like this. No. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about.
No, I just got that feeling as well. No.
When Jeremy...
No, thanks.
Yeah, when Jeremy talks about the photo, his wedding photo, the lady right in the background, because it was just them two and the photographer in the tunnel. But in the background is this lady that almost matches perfectly the photo that Lynn got, except she was like a full-blown apparition in this one.
And that's the thing though, Gary, what people won't understand is, one, we didn't know each other when you had these photos taken.
No.
We both had no idea about the places, or I didn't have an idea at the place that you'd been to several times beforehand. And for it to have it match up near on perfectly, and then you look at the records of that place and the information given, and it all adds up.
It does.
Timelines, dates, names.
Yep. Anyway, guys, we've hit our limit. So we're going to have to say goodbye.
Bugger.
Good night, everyone.
I know.
How quick does an hour go?
It does.
About that.
About an hour. It takes about an hour, yeah.
And look, you can see on Karen's face, she's like, I had so much more to say.
We'll have you back. You know that.
I think that's the first time Karen's run out of something to say.
I don't think she has. I just think she's been stalled. Look at that. Look at her face.
I
She's
said
got
I behaved myself. I didn't actually know it was about me, but in their psychic thing. But there you go.
Anyway, we're going to have to go.
Well, that's not a good start.
I knew that you were going to be asking about this, but not specifically me. So I did well.
Anyway,
You did.
we're going to wave goodbye. See you later.
Yeah.
See ya.
Keep it spooky.